All right, good deal. All right, guys, we are live. I'm gonna give it a minute for a few people to join on, and then we're gonna get started. Bro, I got all these dang tabs open. I'm over here trying to buy some houses off of Facebook. I be steady in the groups, bro. It's very competitive, right? Especially in Houston. What market are you in?
I'm in Waco. I'm a few hours away from you.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're not that
like
far.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Yeah,
yeah.
my
So
partner, he tried to jump into when we first started. I'll tell you about that too. When we first started, he wanted to jump into Houston immediately. He's like, let's go to Harris County. I was like, man, that's gonna be tough. We too new. Like, I was being real Debbie Downer at that point, but yeah, we're not too far from Houston.
Houston. Yeah. You're probably like what, like 3 hours, maybe 4 max. Because Waco's what, right outside of Dallas?
It's like right outside of Killeen, really. Temple.
Killeen.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
closer
okay. So
to
you
Killeen
over
and Temple.
there, you know Pearson, bro. What is his name? Wow, he gonna be mad when he see this, bro. My boy's out in Killeen, bro.
I've
I
heard
am
of Pearson
tripping.
before. The last name is Pearson?
Michael is his business partner, and Jerry.
We probably ran into each other before.
Got you, bro. Hey, definitely, if y'all are that close, y'all gotta link up. I'm gonna make that introduction, bro.
Yes,
All right,
sir,
cool.
sir.
Well, we got a few people in here.
Okay.
So if you guys don't know, I got my boy here, and it's funny because how I found you was TikTok, bro. Like I saw you putting out content on TikTok, and I think we chopped it up about a few things, and I was like, I want to have you on the live. I know you haven't been doing this necessarily as long, but I always feel like there's lessons that can be learned at any stage in real estate. And my whole thing is like it's always about relatability. Whenever you're getting started, if you see somebody that, you know what I'm saying, looks like you, but is also in the same situation as you, and you can hear their story, I feel like that gives people motivation. I know for me, just seeing people and meeting people, and then even meeting people that I thought were complete idiots, but I'm like, if that guy can do it, like, you know what I'm saying, I can do it. So, I'm just, and like I told you before, this is exciting for me because I don't really know you. So I'm genuinely excited to hear your story as well. So if you don't mind, like doing an introduction and just talk about maybe what you did before real estate and how you even got into it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. So, government name is Demarcus Phillips. I got the nickname Marks in a different lifetime. And I just threw real in front of it. I saw a lot of people. I'm not gonna lie, I saw a lot of people do that. So like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that too. I had Marks was my user. That was my handle before, so I just threw the real in front of it. But I kind of my background before getting into real estate was more of on the working with your hand side. So growing up, I mean, I was into football. I was into sports a lot. So I thought that's where I was going. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't good enough. So school was, an out for me. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just go to school. I'll go to school for business management. I want to own a car dealership because the only huge successful person I've ever seen in my life, my friend's dad he owned a car dealership. And I remember going to his mom's house, and their house was huge. They had a basement. We were out in Tennessee. They had a basement where they had their own like space. It was like a white garage. It was really freaking out. I think about it, but it was like everything was white like tile floors. They had their own like separate rooms down there, playrooms. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And then we went to their dad's house. They weren't together, and his house was one of those huge fancy houses. The whole house was made out of glass. I was like, this is crazy. So it kind of stuck in my head, like, hey, I want to kind of be in business. So it stayed with me. So that's what I went to college for. Started having kids though, and that kind of slowed things down as far as college goes. So I had to jump into the workforce, and I was always good with working with my hands. My dad worked with his hands throughout the military, and so I went and got my HVAC license so I can be, go work at some HVAC contractor. That was my goal. I was gonna go there, make $25 an hour, and I was gonna be straight. So I thought.
So hey, and it's not a bad way of living, bro. Like even knowing what I know now, I tell people all that all the time. Like do a trade, bro, for like 5 years, stack your bread, and then either buy, you already know that trade, start a business in that trade, or take that money to something else, and you can still start your own little side hustle and make what the average American makes in a couple, you know what I'm saying, a day or two working for yourself.
Exactly. So that was my goal. Like the business side was still in the back of my head. The sports side was still in the back of my head. So I was in love with fitness. I knew I wanted to be a business owner. I got this trade, so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to stay here. And I think here in Texas, you have to work under a contractor for 4 years, something like I forget. It's been so long before you can actually go get your contractor's license to do your own thing. It's kind of frowned upon doing work without your contractor if you don't have your contractor's license. So that was really my plan. That's what I was going to do. Me and my dad talked about it for the longest, but I just wasn't in love with it. Like I had no passion for AC work at all.
Yeah.
I just didn't like jumping in. I was the new guy. I was green. I was small. I'm 6'2". I was about 140 at that time. So I'm the guy that's in the crawl spaces, connecting ductwork. I'm in the attic, army crawling for 8 hours in the heat. We're in Texas. You already know it. It's 100 degrees outside. It's so hot in the attic. You come outside, it feels like wintertime. So
Literally.
it just wasn't what it was. So I started thinking about how do I get out of this, and I started bouncing around for the longest. I had it was like my mom she would always get on me because every time tax season would come and I would get my W-2s to her house because I used her house for my mailing address just because I don't know where I was moving at the time. I'm young, trying to bounce around. I would get maybe about eight to 10 W-2s per year, all the way up until I started wholesaling. So I had 8 to 10 jobs every year. I would just quit. If I didn't like it, I'm quit. Let me go find something else. Let me go find. I'm trying to figure out a way. Like, how can I get out of this? There's got to be a way I can get out of this. So I eventually fell upon insurance. It was out of insurance or real estate, and I started thinking about it the way everybody else thinks about it when they think about real estate. Go get your license is the only way you can get into it. So I researched it, and I decided to go the insurance route. So I went and got my life insurance license, and I'm working as a life insurance agent. And somehow I'm watching a documentary on Netflix by Killer Mike. I never knew who Killer Mike was, anything like that. So I'm watching it, and he's talking about some cool things, some interesting things. Funny guy. So I go to Breakfast Club to watch his interview, and after that interview went off, Mark Witten's interview came on right after that. So I'm not really paying attention to it. I'm just talking to my wife, and he started talking about wholesaling real estate, how to get into real estate with no money, no cash, no credit, any of that. So I'm listening to it as background noise. I'm not really paying attention. Then he started talking about the steps, like what to go to Narrow Online, go to this, go to that. And I like tuned her out now. Now I'm paying attention. We've all heard those seminars on the radio. Hey, come to this free seminar. You get there and then you got to pay 30 grand to get the tools. I actually had a maintenance worker that worked under me. I was a maintenance supervisor that went to one of these, and he told me the experience. Hey, it was free. I'm gonna make so much money. It was free, but I need to save up 25,000. And in my head, I'm like, I make more money than you. I mean, that's gonna be a long time for either one of us to get there. I was like, that's crazy. I was like, that's a scam. So now that I'm hearing him explain what's going on, I'm like, I'm gonna try this when I get to work in the morning. So I got to work. I looked up my mom's address, my address, anybody's address I knew. I'm plugging in everything he talked about, and I saw like, hey, this is actually information like for free. So I started researching, courses, and I found a couple courses. I was really stuck between whose course I was going to take, and I thought like, hey, let me just see if Mark Witten has a course. And I went and took his course, jumped in, and I say about it was really 4 weeks into the course, but like on the third week, I got a house under contract, and I closed that deal, and I quit my job like 2 days after that.
Yeah. And I think that's dope. And I was never a fan of a job. I stayed a lot longer than I should have though, right? Because like I think we talked about before is like just being comfortable, and I got very comfortable at a job. But I think it's funny that you're like self-aware. Like even HVAC, like we talked about, you can make really good money, but you're like, this ain't for me. And I feel you on that, bro. I'm too big to be crawling. Luckily, like I won't fit in the spaces.
Yes,
but I think that's dope that you were self-aware to know like this isn't for me. And it's funny how things work out when we find out about real estate, because like you said, I've been to those seminars and like I tried to spend 50,000 on, what I'm saying, like a mentor, which luckily I was denied, and that was the biggest blessing. But it's funny how we all find out about real estate different. So you found out about his course, you paid for it, you went through the course, and like 3 weeks in, like that's crazy. Like it took me 6 months to get a deal. So what did the course say? Like we don't have to go like, give away his course, but like what were the hard points that it told you to do, and is that what you did, or what got you that first deal?
So the main thing that he talked about in the course, especially in the beginning, was your mindset. He was always talking about changing your mindset, and he was basically breaking down the structure of a deal. The only thing about this business is changing mindset and being able to find deals. That's really about it. That's really all you need to worry about. So he broke down all the basics, and I received it pretty well because I kind of skipped over some parts. But on my journey to kind of getting into this, trying to find a way out, I started doing YouTube with one of my cousins, and I kind of started seeing the marketing side of social media. I started because Instagram was brand new at that time, and I saw that you can market on different pages, and just like my marketing class I took in college. So I basically I jumped in on Mark Witten's course, and it's funny because he was talking about having a specialized knowledge to find a deal, and driving for dollars. So I just started doing it immediately. I didn't even finish the course. I just started doing exactly what he was saying, and he had like an MP3 version. So I would listen to it in the car while I was driving for dollars, listening, and I would just listen over and over and over and over, until I was able to find exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about finding distressed property. So I found it, and I got on one of the websites he was talking about. I don't even think it works anymore, like Spokio.com or something like that. I got on that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's around, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think it works anymore. So I got on that at that time, and I called them, went over there and put it under contract, and I was ready to go. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. But
yeah, so tell me about the house and like what the deal exactly. Like how much did you get it under contract for? How much did you sell it? Like how did you find a buyer? Like let's break it all down.
Yeah. So the house, it was a boarded house. So again, like I say, I quit my job, 2 days after getting my first deal. But my boss would always walk around and see what I was doing because I worked insurance. I was behind a desk, and she would come over there. She would talk about people she saw in real estate. And I'm in Waco, so it's known for Baylor, and it's known for Chip and Joanna, from Magnolia Realty. So
yeah,
that's in my head. I thought, hey, I'm going wholesale. I'm going to their territory. So I went straight over there because I knew for a fact, that we used to, when I was in my college days, that's where all the frat parties were, in that area. So I was like, I know I've seen some beat up houses around there. I know they're over there, but they've already flipped most of the stuff over there, and everything that's left, they want, top notch, and not many investors gonna buy that. So I remember her telling me something about going to, lower income areas. And that is what, Mark was saying in the course. I was like, let me just go drive around over there real quick. So I drove around over there every day after work, and I found a house that was boarded. I found a few. So I went, called them up, and went over there with my little repair sheet, like I knew what I was doing, and walked through the house, checking stuff off. I had no clue, but I'm walking around checking stuff off. And at the end of the walkthrough, I'm sitting there. I'm trying to build up the strength to tell her what my offer is because it's so low. I'm like, there's no way. I'm just sitting in the kitchen. She's outside. I'm just standing there, just trying to talk to myself. Like, hey, just go out there and tell her what it is.
Yeah, have a little pep talk.
Man, it was crazy. Like I didn't want to tell her. I wanted to cop out and just say, hey, I'll call you. I'll talk to my partner, and I probably was never going to call her. So I was like, you know what? I just have to do it. So I went out there and I told her, I said, hey, the numbers I calculated in the ARV, I'm telling her all this real estate jargon that I should have been saying. And I told her, I was like, hey, I got to get this under contract for about 15. That's how much I want to buy for. I want to buy for 15,000. And she's like, okay, well, I'll think about it. Let me talk with my husband really quick. He was in a car. She's like, let me talk to him, and we'll think about it. I was like, okay. So I walked her to her car. They got in. I said, nice to meet you. My wife and my kids are in the car. So we jump in the car, we drive off, and I was like, man, that was so nerve-wracking. I was like, I'm excited though. The next day she called, she was like, hey, I thought about your offer. We can't take 15,000, but we can do 20. And it kind of fit in my formula. So I was like, okay, 20, yeah, I'll take it. Like I didn't even fight it. I didn't say, you know what, I don't know if I could do 20, maybe. Like now I would fight against it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, 20, I'll take it. Let's do it. So I got under contract for 20. And next day I got to work, I put it on Facebook Marketplace. Because the day I got in the contract, I had a bunch of buyers because in Mark's course it taught you how to like find buyers. So I called up a bunch of buyers, told them what I did, told them I was a wholesaler. They all had like maybe 50 buyers on my list. So I sent it to them immediately once I got in the contract using MailChimp. And I got maybe about 100% opens, but I got no response. I'm thinking like people are going to call me immediately. I was like, well, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? So that next morning I got to work. I put it on Facebook Marketplace. I get back to work. I'm, trying to sell some insurance, get some commission. And my phone is like buzzing off the hook. And I had my Facebook tab open at the bottom. So, people couldn't see. So I see all the notifications. I click it and there's like 30, 40 people messaging me about this house. So I'm writing them back. Some people's like, hey, I want to go to it. Luckily, I went and bought a lockbox because that's what he said in his course. So I had a lockbox on the door. And, people are telling me about the house. They make offers like, okay, I'll give you 10. I'll give you 5. I'll give you 8. One person said, I'll give you 15. And somebody else came through that's like, hey, I'll give you 17. And I was like, well, I already got an offer for 23. I'm just talking, trying to get him up on this offer. And another guy called me. He's actually a buyer that I ended up finding. I just couldn't find his contact information because he was under a trust. But I recognized the name. And he was like, hey, I got a house right across the street. And I've been actually looking for this house for the longest. Can I go see it? Gave him the address. He went over there. And everybody was going in and out of the house. He called me. He said, hey, there's a bunch of people over here. I'm just going to wait for them to leave. And I said, okay. So he goes in, calls me after he leaves. He said, hey, I just left and there's more people coming. I'm going to be honest with you. I want it, right? I want the house. I was listing it for 28,000. He's like, I want the house. I'll give you asking price if you take my offer right now. I'll give you asking, because he saw all the competition he was going to have to go through. So
yeah,
he was like, I want to close right now. I'm meeting in office right now. I'll do this right now. I put the earnest money up. I want this house right now. So I looked at my boss. I said, hey, I gotta go. I'm feeling kind of sick. So I clock out. I go meet him at his office. We sign the contract, and eventually I get my $8,000 check. I mean, it's a long story behind this first deal because it almost fell through.
Yeah. No, and I definitely want to get into that, but taking it back real quick though, like so you were driving for dollars. How did you then contact him? Like you got his info and then like skip traced it, cold call him, or you just sent him a letter? And then had you looked at any properties or was this the first house you ever looked at?
No. So I actually had another house on the contract before this.
Okay.
But the thing behind that one is he had a mortgage on the property and it was in that same area. So I didn't know anything about subject to, which probably would have fit, but he owed more than what the house was worth. And then he ended up having some type of like tax lien against him from a different state. So they ended up coming up anyway.
But when you got the house, when you got the first one under contract, was that like proof for you? Like this is real? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of really affirms like, okay, I'm doing all this work, but because you hear people talk, bro, but until you get like that contract, because I looked at a lot, bro. I probably looked at like 20 something houses before I ever got one under contract. Like I was like, I ain't going to look at another house, bro. And then it happened when I was literally to my give up point. So like, that's so dope to hear. But how are you contacting them though? Like to get these properties?
What I did, I skipped trades and cold call. That was going to be my thing because I'm an insurance agent. I've had
so you're already on the phone.
Yeah. I've had background in customer service because again, like I said, I was bouncing job to job, so I work at call centers. So I felt comfortable when they said cold calls. Like, man, I do this every day at work. So I'll jump on the phone with them real quick. So I jumped on the phone with her, her and her husband, and I got a contract.
Gotcha. And so you got it for 20, and then you said you sold it for 28.
28. Yeah, I sold it for 28.
Yeah.
And I could have gotten more. It was just that 8,000 was looking so good. I was like, okay, I'll take it right now.
Yeah. And he probably knew too, but that's still like it's a win-win, right? So like that's so how did like what are all the good and the bad, right? You said a lot of things happened in that deal. Let's break it down because no deal is the same, right? Like never. Right? And I've done hundreds now, and I can tell you like no deal is ever going to be the same, right? So what happened in there? Like what went wrong and what went right?
So the things that went wrong was to be honest, like my lack of knowledge and my communication. Like I wasn't communicating the right way with everybody.
Gotcha.
So what happened was I got on the contract for 28,000. I take on my contract, and these guys they have like the whole operation. The dad is an older guy, older gentleman, and he started the business. He was an investor, and his oldest son is a lawyer or is a real estate lawyer. The middle son is a broker, and the youngest son, he's my age. He was an investor like his dad. So they have their own shop. They have a bunch of rentals. They have everything. So when I got to the office, he asked, "Do I have a contract?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, my brother will look at it. I mean, it's no big deal." So I give it to him, and he looked at it. He's like, "No, we're not going to use that." So he writes up a TREC contract. I've never seen a TREC contract before, and that thing, it confused me. I was looking at it, I was like, man, I don't know what any of this means. But I feel like I'm
bro,
pretty smart.
it's not. It was what? It was probably 9 pages then. Now it's 10, and that's one of the biggest questions. And I actually posted today in the group a reference and for people to know, like, we sell our contracts, they're pre-filled. It's the same ones we use. But for people to know, like, because it can be overwhelming. Lucky for me, with my mentor, his wife was a realtor, and that's what I learned on was the TREC. So I never knew anything else. And I've just never had good luck with a 1 page. And I remember even going to an appointment one time, and a seller was with a buddy of mine. He was going to buy a house. I was trying to sell him one, and he was like, "I'm going around the corner to look at another one. Do you want to come?" And the guy was like, "Do you have a TREC contract?" He was like, "I have," because he only put out a 1 page, and he was like, "No, I'm gonna need a TREC contract." So it's important for people to understand like how to fill it out, because it's 10 pages of bullshit for realtors, but there's only like 6 lines, you know what I mean, that need to be filled out for us, but that can be overwhelming. So you did a TREC or a 1 page for the seller and then a TREC for the buyer, or what?
So I had a 1 page for the seller and I had a 1 page for the buyer, but they didn't want it. They gave me a TREC. So I was like, okay, that's cool. They was like, yeah, take this back to the seller and have them sign it too, because, you know, you're technically not the owner, and, you know, we'll put your finder's fee down there in section 11 or whatever, wherever it was. So I was like, okay, cool. So I get in the car with my wife. I tell her to drive. I was like, "You drive," because I got to read over this TREC real quick. Because this lady, she's an older lady in her 60s. She asked me a question about every sentence on my 1 page contract. It took me like 2 hours to walk her through that. I'm like, this is 9 pages. It's gonna take forever. She's gonna ask a question about everything. Yeah, and I don't understand this. So I read it, and I was like, man, I don't even know if she's gonna do this, but I'll try. So I went to the house, gave her the contract. She's reading over it. The first thing she sees, she was like, okay, all right, I get this. What do you mean that the seller will buy at the seller's expense, will pay at the seller's expense the closing costs, or the seller disclosure, wherever it may be at the bottom.
I already know what it says. Yeah, bro.
So I'm sitting there, I was like, I didn't even notice that part. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I told her I'll pay all closing costs. So now she's freaking out. She's like, I don't know about this. I really don't. So she's flipping pages. She's looking. She was like, it says that I need to pay for what was it, like a survey and all this other stuff. So I'm like,
I already know, bro.
I didn't know,
See, I already know the complaints that you're about to have, because I've answered all these questions so many times, bro. Like, and it's like you say, it's a survey, the HOA. Like, am I gonna have to pay for this? Like, all of that.
So they were, she was not having it. She was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't even know if I want to sell this house anymore. You know, I'm just gonna give it to my son. I'm just gonna. So I had to calm her down. I was like, well, you know what? Her last name was Horn. I was like, you know what, Mrs. Horn? I kind of broke down who this person was. I was like, yeah, this is just another investor. He kind of overheard me when I was talking to some people, and you know, like I told you, I work with other investors, and excuse me, I was like, I work with other investors. He kind of saw it and was like, you know what? I'll partner with you on this deal. And then once he started looking at it, he liked the deal so much, he was like, you know what? I'll just, you know, kind of pay you to get out of the way, type of deal. But we can go back to our original agreement if you want to. I mean, this contract, we can rip it up, tear it up. It doesn't matter. We can go back to what we were going to do. She's like, okay, so I saved it. I go back to the office and I'm telling my mom, saying, hey, she does not want to sign this contract. I don't know what exactly this is, but she's not going to want to sign this. So he's a broker. The older brother was a lawyer. So they figured out a way to kind of, I guess the contract basically by law for the duration of that contract makes me the owner. So they put me on the TREC contract as the seller some weird way. I don't know how they pulled it off. They did something. They played with their words. You know, we ended up getting it done. Yeah, we ended up getting it done that way. But now, like you said, I know the TREC back and front to back. Like I use TRECs in my real estate business now.
Yeah, and it's essential. I always just tell everybody, just use a state contract. Except for there's certain states where, like, because we learned just note, like, because some states you have to disclose that you're assigning, like it doesn't matter unless you double close. So like just be aware of your state laws. But I know in Texas, like you said, like now, because I'm assuming now you just use a trek and an assignment agreement,
I
or do
use
you
both.
still?
So it depends because some people I took a trek to, they didn't really like it. They didn't want to read all that. They were confused. So I always kept a one page with me, and I would always like pick and plug different things from the trek or other JV contracts. I ended up running into who was it out of Dallas, Donovan Ruffin's guys, and I didn't know who they were at the time. But I started reading over their JV contract and the paperwork for the deal that we were going through. So I was like pick and plug stuff from other people's contracts and put in there to kind of protect myself. And my one page turned into a two page. So I basically I carry both. I carry a Trek and I carry my 2 page contract all the time.
Got you, got you. And then that's the good thing too. Like Texas, you can do a contract technically on a napkin, and it's, you know what I mean, like as long as both people sign and everything, like that's a binding contract. So it's just important to know your state laws. But I think that's so important. Was that the main hiccup though, or was there anything else that went wrong in the deal?
That was the main hiccup, but we ended up having another hiccup at the closing table. So we
And
get
what was
there.
that?
It was the closing costs. It was the closing costs and the prorated taxes. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't relay to the buyer that they had to pay closing costs or any of that. Like I was not. I was just so happy that I was potentially getting 8,000. So when I got
Yeah.
there on closing day, actually before that, I show up on closing day, and the broker he wasn't ready yet. He was like, "Oh, I haven't even gone to the bank. I'm not ready. I haven't prepared any of the documents. We actually need to do this in 2 days." So I was like, they're older, they don't have cell phones. So now I have to wait for them to get to their office, go outside and tell them, hey, something happened. We actually got to come Friday. She was okay.
Yeah.
But on Friday when we met, I go into the office and he's showing me the hood, which I didn't know what it was at the time. Like I've seen it, but I didn't really dissect it that much. And he had one that showed that they were going to pay X amount of dollars for the prorated taxes and the closing costs, and they weren't getting their 20, they were going to get like 16.5, something like that. I may be wrong. And I was like, she's not going to like that. And I told him what, kind of what I was thinking. He was like, okay. So he made another HUD statement just in case. He was like, well, she's really liable for her taxes. She really has to pay those taxes. But if she doesn't, I don't know. So I just like stopped him. I was like, you know what? I'll just pay it out of my wholesale fee because I wanted to get it done. So
Mm-hmm.
he had two separate forms. So we get into the closing table and we're talking. He's trying to explain to her about the prorated taxes. And she looks at me because I'm in the office with him. So she looks at me. She's like, you said that I was going to get X amount of dollars. And now you guys are trying to bamboozle me and all of this. So I'm sitting there like, well, you know what, Mrs. Horn, kind of what he's saying is, the taxes are kind of your responsibility, but you are right. I did tell you that I was going to give you the full 20. So I'll take care of that so you can get your full 20. So he already had the backup documents there. So he just pulled it out, had them sign, and then we closed it. My wife was in the car again. I get in the car. I was like, oh my, with my check. My check was like 6,900 now. But I get in the car and I'm like, that deal almost blew up too many times.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, do you go to closings nowadays?
What's that?
Do you go to closings nowadays?
No, I don't even show up. I don't go to
Yeah,
closings anymore.
yeah. So
I
like, bro,
don't go.
out of all the deals we've done, like it wasn't until last year when we started flipping. And sometimes my title company will just send them for like electronic signature, but like I never go to closings, and that's the main reason, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you're not there, like they'll call you pissed off afterward. Like I always say on closing day, right? If my phone doesn't ring, we had a smooth closing. I already
Yeah.
know it. But if that motherfucker start ringing, I
Yeah.
already know something's wrong. And,
Yes,
and
sir.
so many times, bro, you think, and that's why I tell people, do not count your chips, even if you're at the day of closing, because we had this happen recently. Like same thing, we had like this fucking terrible deal, bro. We had to like get rid of squatters, like just everything, bro. It was just like everything that you can think of. And then on closing, we had to pay out an extra $4,000 just to get the deal done because the seller wasn't going to sign. And we tried everything, right? And it was just like at this point, like it sucks, but it's like just get the deal done. And that's good that you didn't let your pride get in the way. Like you said, you just took the money, you knew what was up, and then you learned to quit going to closing, especially if you're wholesaling. Like if you're flipping, it's different, but like Don't go to closing.
Yeah,
So
I've never
that's
showed up again.
yeah, that's good, bro. Do those guys do they still buy from you as well? Have they bought more deals, or that was the only one, or what?
They bought one more from me. They kind of have a niche,
Mhm,
so it's kind of the small margins. They go after all the stuff in the lower income area,
mhm.
which to be honest, I probably should have stayed in the area. We kind of talked about it before. I kind of fell off in some areas a lot. Um, I would kind of slack. I'll get a deal, I'll get comfortable, pay up my rent for so many months, and I started trying to delegate tasks too early. So I kind of fell off on getting them deals. But yeah, they bought one more from me.
Got you. And yeah, let's talk about it though, right? Because I think I even like when I did my talk in San Antonio, this is literally what I talked about was building consistency. Because I feel like getting your first deal, like it's hard, but honestly, it's a lot easier than like building consistency, and especially in real estate, right? And like even we still see it. Like this last like 3 weeks have been slow. We've had a bunch of leads come in, but like nothing has been immediate. We're still just making offers, like doing what we can control, but it's hard, like especially when you're newer, like is this working, or you start doubting everything, or we may get lazy, or we're like, oh, marketing doesn't matter as much, bro. Like my first 2 years of real estate was like bro, it was a roller coaster. Like it was up. It
Hmm.
wasn't really till like I've been doing, like I told you before, like almost 5 years. It wasn't really till like year 3.5 where I met my business partner that I started like, I won't say figuring it out, but understanding things, right? And
Yeah,
understanding
yeah.
consistency. And, and then it's like, then you have shit happen that you can't even control. Like we talked about before with Corona, right? We were
Hmm.
killing it. February, March, April was like, got cut in half. And then it was just pretty much a deal a month or 2 deals a month, right? Like not a lot going on, and it's something that you can't can control. Like nobody knows what the market is going to do. So, what are some things you've learned in that, and what are you doing to like what were the mistakes you made? Let's go through that, and then what did you learn, and where are you at now, and what are you doing to better that situation?
Got you. So my mistakes then in the beginning was, I think I was moving too quick. To be honest, I think I was trying to fire my. I know everybody in this that tries to get into this business. I don't want to say everybody a lot, but they try to fire themselves from certain positions. I tried to fire myself from all positions immediately. I got that first deal for 8. I got my second deal for around 2,000. And then my third deal was somewhere around 22, where I cut my partner in. That's when I kind of brought him into the game. And once I got that money, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fire myself. I'm gonna hire some VAs, get an admin, get a cold caller, try to get some type of disposition person. I didn't need all that. I didn't have the systems to fuel that. So it went from me actually cold calling and trying to close deals to me managing people. And I kind of fell off at that point because now my deals started to slow down. The cold calling wasn't going right. The accent was a real big thing at that point. Like some people that I felt like I could have talked to, I actually ended up talking to myself after my admin got off the phone with them. Um, the language barrier was just too much. So I think my biggest problem was I was trying to delegate too much stuff in the beginning, and it kind of made me slack. And I got real comfortable in being the manager since I've had manager experience, and I kind of come from that background. I got comfortable in that, so I would just sit there and say, "Hey, you got to do this. You got to do this." I'm trying to make everybody be me. I'm trying to make everybody be as good as I was, and it slowed me down a lot. So deals started slowing down, kind of like what you said. It was like a roller coaster. So I messed up big time when it came to that because I wasn't being consistent. My marketing started slowing down. I'm buying a bunch of different programs to keep up with what like I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses within real estate. So I'm watching everybody on all these different platforms. I'm watching Maxwell. I'm watching everybody, and I'm trying to do what they're doing by firing myself and just getting all these platforms. And it was hurting me. And it hurt me because it slowed my business down a lot.
Yeah, no, and I think number one, I want to say thank you, bro, for being vulnerable and sharing that, right? Because you're in the midst of learning, right? But
Mhm.
I did this not necessarily the same thing, but I had different lessons to learn, right? And not being consistent, and that's another reason, with you being newer, that's why I wanted you to come on because people can learn from and not do. Like we're telling you literally what not to do and what to do, because this literally comes from experience, right? And so I just think it's so important that you shared that because like everybody always like, bro, one of the questions other than how to get a mentor is always like, when should I start hiring? Like I literally had a guy hit me up today on Instagram. Like, I have 50 grand. Who should I hire first? And I was like, nobody. Like
Yeah.
you need to do the task and like slowly fire yourself from certain things. But like you got to be in the trenches, bro, because especially when you're newer and you're building that consistency because you don't have enough money to sustain the leads coming in. So that's why I always tell people focus is essential, right? So focusing on that one thing, right? That one marketing strategy that you can do, right? So for us, like it's easy now, like as I did direct mail when I got started and like that was big. And like now it's like, bro, you can get started with texting and it not be that hard on you. You don't even have to talk to a seller physically over the phone, and you can have it on your mobile app. You don't have to worry about if I send out 10,000 mailers, am I going to get the 10 calls or 20 calls? Like these are the lessons that you need to learn from. And I think so many people want a shortcut. They're like, well, I want to get in this business. I want to spend a lot of money. And then they spend a lot of money quick and they'd have nothing to show for. So like and to what you said as well is like, because I find myself not so much these days, but that's the bad of social media, right? The comparing yourself or this person's business looks like this, or I need to have this many cold callers. And like something that I heard Pace Morby say last year was you need to build the business to your personality. So like, whatever your personality is, if you want the office and the callers, like do that. But for me, I don't want that, bro. Like me and Ben don't even like my business partner don't even want an office really. Because like I don't even like first off, I expect other people to show up and like I'm never even gonna be there. So it's like, like figure out what you want and what you need to hire for and go from there. Like don't just because you have money, think because I spend it on this, it's gonna give me the result I want. Like you need to understand it before you fire yourself from it,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what I was doing, man. I went focused and I just, it's crazy now because my partner now, which really he kind of like he has my back on everything, and he's kind of like reshaping my mind because he's real hungry, he's new, so it kind of reminds me of when I started. So I mean, I'm thankful for him.
Yeah, no, and that's good to have, right? You need to have people around you that make you better. So, what did you start doing, right? You hired all these people, and things started to slow down. What did you do to correct that course? Like, obviously, you brought your partner on; he's helping you with the mindset and stuff like that. What are y'all doing physically? Did you do to turn around the situation?
So what I did originally to turn around the situation is I just had to jump back in the trenches, kind of like what you were saying. So I took back over cold calling. Um, I took back over, running comps and doing some of the admin tasks, not all of them, because my admin was real good at pulling and scraping lists. She was real good at that, pre foreclosures, all of that. She was good at that. So I just had to jump back on the phone and just decide, hey, I can't. Um, as much as I want to, I can't hire somebody to be as good as me right off the bat, especially not training them as much as I need. So I train them for a day. Like, okay, you got it. So what I did to kind of combat that is I just had to jump back into the role of actually doing the business. So that was like the first start is to jump back in there and start doing stuff myself. And actually, social media kind of helped me out a little bit too, because I jumped on social media and that's how I found my partner. He ended up reaching out to me and we talked a little bit, and he jumped on. Like I said, he's new. He closed his first deal actually by watching me. Um,
Hell yeah,
and
bro, that's awesome.
yeah, so he told me a story, and I have a lot of people that jump in my DMs, especially with my original mentor. He would post like my checks. I'll send it to him as like a congratulations, like, hey man, I appreciate what you did for me. I appreciate you teaching me what you taught me. Here's a check. He'll post it. 50 DMs come, and
Mhm.
so I would get a lot of people asking me to jump in the business with me, but something about his story kind of like hit me, and he was
Mhm.
genuine. He told me, "Hey, I'll work for free. I'll do this. I've heard that a lot, but something told me, hey, let me just try this guy out." And here we are now. He's out in Arizona actually, and fingers crossed. We have two potential huge deals. I don't want to talk too much about them. Let me knock on some wood because we had a deal
Right.
that kind of fell through the other day.
Yeah. No, I feel you, bro. So he's just doing stuff virtually with you then, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So he's doing stuff virtually with me. So he's basically he's tackling the Arizona market. I'm tackling the Texas market, and we're trying to figure out what market we're gonna do virtually. But we're mainly doing everything physically together in different states, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. Okay, no, that's dope though, and that's what's up, bro. And it's good to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I can tell you, out of the DMs too, all those people that say they'll do it, you when you put action into it, the talk is cheap.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I have been able to find a few dope people. Like I said, I found my business partner through social media. And then I have a guy helping me with some videography stuff because I'm trying to figure out the content stuff, and he's put his actions where his mouth is. So, when you find those people, definitely take care of them and surround yourself with them.
Yeah.
Because that's how I was, like you said, when I got started with my mentor, like even our first couple of deals, like I did all the work and I was like, bro, you can give me $1,000 and I'll be happy. Like, I just need, like you said, I needed something bigger, and trying other things I just wasn't into, man. Like I just kept trying to force myself to go to school. And it's like now thinking about being an engineer and working a fucking desktop job, like bro, this
Yeah.
shit would be so whack. Like
Yeah,
so
exactly,
whack.
exactly.
So whack.
It
So
sounds like a nightmare.
right. Like I see why people jump out of windows after like 40 years,
Man,
bro. Like I can't
I'm
do it.
telling
So you've
you.
turned it around. You started to figure these things out. Like what are some big takeaways though from just in real estate that you've learned as we wind this down that have been essential in your growth? Like anything you want to share, like feel free.
I would say mindset. Mindset is really the biggest thing. I mean, I learned that before real estate, but I didn't really practice it. I, to be honest, I kind of backtrack a little bit. I ran into Gary V, and not personally, but I found Gary V maybe about 6 months before trying wholesaling, and
Mm,
he talked about mindset. He talked about content on social media. He talked about all that stuff, and it took me back to my days when I did YouTube, and I kind of just thought I was like, hey man, I mean this is real big. You need to surround yourself with people that you want to be like. You need to surround yourself with positivity. And through real estate, I kind of found that. Like, I mean, that's all I see now is just real estate. That's all I talk about. My wife actually goes crazy sometimes because that's all I talk about. That's all I surround myself around. So my biggest takeaway is having that mindset to break out of the comfort that you've been in.
mm.
I go into rooms that I've never been in before. I talk to people I've never talked to before. I broke out of my shell. I was an introvert, so now um, I can stand in front of people and talk. I can introduce myself to people, and all that came from real estate because this is a business of networking. So like my big takeaway is mindset and being able to kind of network with people, kind of breaking out of that shell.
Yeah, no, and I think, bro, I think that that's an amazing play because like you said, you need to push yourself to grow. I just talked to one of my childhood friends into moving from Tennessee to Houston, just to try some new shit, man. Like I'm like your environment, like nobody's doing anything. Like I had to have a real talk with him, but it's because I genuinely care for him. And he moved, bro. And then he moved, and one of my friends was hiring as a loan officer, so now he has a decent job that he's going to learn a new skill. And I think it's really just because he took action, right? And he
Mhm.
made himself uncomfortable. And I can tell you thousands of stories where I've done that in my life. Like even the speaking thing, like people are like, "Oh, you did good that you've done that a lot." I'm like, I've spoken in front of like 15, 20, 50 people like max, but it was like 300
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And you think you're about it until you get on that stage and everybody's looking at you.
Exactly.
But it was afterward, it was one of the best things ever because I pushed myself and now I have a new skill that I can work on and get better at, right? But
Exactly.
it's just so important to try those new things and push yourself because growth and comfort, right? Like those two things don't even go together. Like they're not even on the same scale. So
Not
uh
even close.
and that's so important too, like you said, with mindset, because like if you don't have the right mindset, you'll never, especially in this business, bro, like when you have a $30,000 $40,000 deal fall apart, it's like, bro, if your mindset's not right, you're not gonna make it through that, right? So
Exactly.
it's so important. Well, I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate you sharing all this with us. I mean, obviously, like I said, I found you on TikTok. Where all can people find you? And like I said, anything else you want to leave, feel free.
People can find me, of course, on TikTok. I'm new to TikTok, but kind of how you found me, I just jumped on there, started talking about real estate, and it took a life of its own. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, here on Facebook, all at Real Marks. Um, and yeah, so you guys can find me there. Um, yeah, so that's really it.
Okay, dope. Well, good shit. All right, guys. Well, closing statements. I appreciate y'all kicking it with us. We're gonna be doing these every Thursday night. Next Thursday is gonna be a good friend of mine. She's actually in my market. I want to get some ladies on here so they can see some boss chicks, and she's killing it in my market. And she's even put me on so much game, and it's I just love seeing people win. So every Thursday, 7:30 Central Time. Come join and bring your comments, questions, and let me know who else you guys want to see. If not, if I haven't already talked to them, I'll definitely try to reach out. But yeah, we'll make it happen. But once again, bro, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.